Welcome to Nyma's Stories. If you love emotional, dramatic, and powerful true-to-life stories, you're in the right place. Before we begin today's story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Now, sit back, relax, and get ready for a story that will move your heart and stay with you long after it ends. The wind danced softly through the pine trees as the sun dipped below the hills of Vermont, casting golden rays over the secluded cabin. Inside, Emma Wallace, née Blake, wrapped a wool shawl around her shoulders and watched her new husband from across the living room. Ethan, tall and composed as ever, stood by the fireplace, pouring them both a glass of red wine. It was their third evening at the cabin, secluded, romantic, and peaceful. The kind of honeymoon she'd always dreamed of. After all, how many women from small-town high school could say they married one of America's youngest tech billionaires? Ethan Wallace, founder of Novalink, innovator, philanthropist, and now her husband. Emma still couldn't quite believe it. Just 2 years ago, she'd been teaching art at a local high school in upstate New York. She met Ethan at a charity art auction where her students' paintings were displayed. He had purchased one of her students' works for $50,000 and then offered to help fund her program. That night, over shared stories and a glass of bourbon, he had asked her to dinner. They were opposites, she, warm and idealistic, he, cool and pragmatic. But somehow they fit, and now she was his wife. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. Later that night, as Ethan showered in the inn's soot bathroom, Emma curled into the throw blanket on the couch, sipping wine and flipping through her tablet. She reached over to grab a notepad and accidentally knocked over Ethan's phone. It lit up on the floor. Normally, she wouldn't have thought twice. But this time, something pulled at her, an instinct. The screen hadn't locked yet. A message hovered in view. Julia C. He misses you. You're still his father, Ethan. Emma's heart stuttered. She stared at the message, unblinking. The name didn't mean anything, at least not to her. But the words? Her fingers trembled as she picked up the phone. She shouldn't look. She knew she shouldn't. But something in her stomach tightened like a knot refusing to loosen. She tapped open the thread. There were dozens of messages. Some recent, others stretching back weeks. Most short. He asked about you again. I didn't tell him anything. Yet, he looks just like you when he's upset. He deserves to know. So do you? Emma felt like her lungs forgot how to work. The bathroom door opened, releasing a cloud of steam. Ethan stepped out, toweling his hair. Hey, did I leave my phone? He stopped cold. Emma was standing now, holding the phone, her face pale. Who is Julia? She asked. He said nothing. Ethan. He walked slowly toward her, wrapping the towel tighter around his waist. She's someone from my past. Emma laughed, a bitter, shaky sound. She says you're his father. Ethan didn't deny it. Not immediately. That silence cut deeper than any word. They didn't sleep that night. They sat by the fire as Ethan unraveled a truth Emma had never imagined. Years ago, in college, Ethan had fallen in love. Not the calculated, casual kind he was known for in the press. The real kind. The kind that threatened to consume everything. Her name was Julia Carter. She was brilliant, ambitious, and impulsive. He thought she was the one. But their relationship fell apart in their final year. Ethan accused her of betrayal, something about business school applications, a rumor started by someone else. He never asked for clarification. He left. She disappeared. Until 6 months ago, Julia reappeared with a message. She had a son. His name was Liam. He was 7 years old, and she claimed he was Ethan's. She didn't ask for money. She didn't threaten him. She simply said, "You should know he exists." But it wasn't just that. Emma listened in stunned silence as Ethan confessed the rest. Julia is married now, he said. To Daniel. Daniel. Your brother Daniel? She whispered. He nodded. The pieces fell together like shattering glass. Julia Carter. The woman Ethan once loved. The woman who left, or was left. Now married to his older brother. Raising a boy she claimed was his. Why didn't you tell me? Emma asked, voice hollow. I didn't know how. Ethan said. I thought maybe it wasn't real. Maybe she was lying. You could have done a test. I was scared. Emma stood, pacing the room. Her mind was a hurricane. She's your brother's wife, Ethan? I didn't know until I saw her at a family event 6 months ago, he said. By then, it was too late. She had married Daniel years ago. Emma wrapped her arms around herself. So the boy, Liam, have you met him? No, she won't let me. Emma turned to him, pain flickering in her eyes. Do you want to? Ethan paused. That pause was another wound. I don't know. The next day, they cut the honeymoon short. Back in Manhattan, the silence between them was louder than the traffic outside their penthouse. Emma moved through their apartment like a ghost. Every room reminded her of something he'd said, something she believed. She sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her own photos, wedding pictures, the Vermont sunsets, the letter Ethan had written to her the night before the wedding. You make me want to be better. For the first time in my life, I want forever. She didn't know if she believed it anymore. But she also couldn't ignore the questions clawing at her mind. Who was this boy? Was he truly Ethan's? What kind of woman keeps a child's secret from the father, only to resurface years later, married to his brother? Something didn't add up. So Emma made a decision. She would find Julia, not to start a war, but to find the truth. The first time Emma saw a picture of Julia Carter, it was on an old alumni article from Stanford's class of 2011. Julia wasn't smiling. She wore a pale gray blazer. Her dark hair swept into a sleek bun, and there was something in her eyes, sharp, calculating, self-contained. Not beautiful in the traditional sense, but striking. A woman who didn't just walk into a room. She measured it. Emma stared at the screen longer than she realized. This was the woman her husband had once loved, and, apparently, never truly let go. It was easy to find more about Julia. She had once interned at a hedge fund in Boston, then later served on the board of a tech incubator in Miami. She had published thought pieces on female leadership and investment ethics. She also appeared in multiple photographs with Daniel Wallace, Ethan's older brother, at charity galas and political fundraisers. According to online records, Julia had married Daniel in 2016, 2 years after Ethan supposedly last saw her. And Liam? No trace. No photos. No mention. As if he'd been purposefully kept in the shadows. Emma stood in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone while the kettle whistled. Her hand trembled slightly as she poured the water over the tea bag. Every breath felt tight. The apartment behind her was silent. Ethan had gone into work that morning, claiming he had meetings. Emma wasn't sure if that was true. Part of her wanted space. The other part wanted answers he couldn't seem to give. So she decided to find her own. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number of the only person she trusted to help her quietly. Emma, a familiar voice, answered on the third ring. Hi, Ava. I need a favor. Ava Fields had been Emma's best friend since college, now a private investigator for a Manhattan-based law firm. She was sharp, discreet, and loyal. If there was anyone who could get the truth without making a mess, it was her. I need information about someone named Julia Carter, Emma said. She's married to Daniel Wallace. But before that, she was with Ethan. There was a pause. This about the boy? Emma's breath caught. You've heard. I've heard whispers. But nothing confirmed. Look, I'll dig into her. Quietly. Give me a day. By the next evening, Ava was sitting across from Emma at a rooftop cafe in Soho, her laptop open, her tone calm but serious. Julia Carter is clean, on paper, but dig deeper and the cracks show. Emma leaned in. She left Stanford in 2011, disappeared from the startup scene for almost 2 years, re-emerged in 2013 in Miami, working for a boutique firm linked to Daniel Wallace. That's where they met, married in 2016. But before that, she lived for about a year in a private women's facility in Illinois. Emma's eyes widened. What kind of facility? A maternity center? Discreet. No records of the baby's father. Emma sat back, stunned. So it's true. She did have Ethan's child. Ava raised a brow. Maybe. But here's the thing. She listed no father's name on the birth certificate, which means legally, the child's paternity has never been confirmed. Emma whispered. That's why she came back. Maybe. Or maybe she never really left, Ava said. I also found something else. She turned the laptop toward Emma. It showed a scanned document, an old email dated 2011. It was from Daniel Wallace, sent to an admissions officer at a graduate program Julia had applied to. Subject: regarding Julia Carter's integrity. She has a history of manipulating her resume. I advise thorough verification. Sincerely, Daniel Wallace. Emma froze. He sabotaged her. Looks like it, Ava said. And guess what? That's the same year Ethan and Julia broke up. The air felt colder suddenly. Emma's thoughts raced. So Daniel had known Julia years before she married him. He'd interfered with her applications, possibly ended her relationship with Ethan, and then married her himself? Emma felt sick. Ava added quietly, one more thing. There's a photo, taken last month. Julia was seen leaving the Novalink building. Emma looked up sharply. She visited Ethan. Ava nodded, or she made sure someone saw her doing it. That night, Emma waited for Ethan in the living room. He came home late, loosened his tie, and walked straight to the liquor cabinet. You saw her, Emma said calmly. He paused mid-pour. Yes. When? A few weeks before the wedding. Emma swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me? Ethan turned slowly. His face was pale, drawn. Because I didn't want to lose you. There was no anger in Emma's voice. Just pain. You lied to me, Ethan. Over and over again. I didn't know what to believe, he said. I thought Julia was gone from my life. And then suddenly, she shows up, says I have a son, marries my brother, and expects me to pick up the pieces. Emma stepped forward. Do you love her? Ethan looked at her for a long time. No, but I never stopped wondering why she left. Well, now you know, Emma said bitterly. Your brother pushed her away, and then he claimed her for himself. Silence. Then Ethan said, I want to see the boy. Emma nodded. You should, but not until we know the truth. She handed him the printed email Ava had found. Ethan read it, his hands visibly trembling. She was set up, he murmured. Emma looked him straight in the eyes. Ethan, I don't know what's worse, that she lied to you, or that your brother lied to both of you. He didn't speak. Emma turned away. I need time, she said. Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. I understand, but she wasn't sure he did. The next morning, Emma made a quiet trip to a private lab. She handed over an envelope containing hair strands, Ethan's from his hairbrush, and a small piece of fabric she'd received from Ava, taken from Julia's son's old camp shirt. I'd like a DNA match, she told the technician. Confidential. As she stepped back into the Manhattan air, she knew her life was on the edge of something irreversible. The truth would either save her marriage or end it. The orphanage stood at the edge of a quiet neighborhood in Long Island, tucked between a weathered church and a grove of sycamore trees. From the outside, it looked almost quaint. Whitewashed brick, colorful murals on the sidewalls, and a wooden sign that read, Harbor House, a place for new beginnings. But to Emma, it felt like a threshold, not just to a building, but to a truth no one wanted to face. She gripped the envelope in her purse tightly. The DNA sample sent off 3 days ago, the test results still pending. But something inside her told her she couldn't wait for paperwork. She needed to see the boy. She needed to see Liam. The receptionist at the front desk was friendly but cautious. Emma had used a carefully constructed identity. She was a potential volunteer interested in helping with their weekend art program. It wasn't a complete lie. She had taught art for years. But what she wanted couldn't be scheduled. As the woman checked her ID, Emma glanced around. The walls were painted a soft yellow. Children's drawings were pinned to corkboards. Laughter echoed from a hallway around the corner. I'm sure the director can give you a tour, the receptionist said. But most of the children are in class right now. Emma hesitated. Actually, I was hoping I might meet one of them. A boy named Liam Carter. The woman looked up sharply. I'm sorry. We don't give out information about individual children. Emma smiled, rehearsed but warm. Of course. I completely understand. It's just, I know his mother, Julia. She asked me to check in on him. A pause. A flicker of doubt in the woman's eyes. Then she nodded. Let me get Ms. Hoffman. Ms. Hoffman, the director, was in her late 50s, with silvering hair and glasses that made her look stern until she smiled, which she did, often. She walked Emma through the main halls, explaining the programs, the counseling services, the foster family screenings. They paused at a small doorway that led to a cozy classroom. Inside, a group of children sat cross-legged, working on paintings. At the back of the room, A boy sat alone at an easel. Dark hair, slender frame, pale blue shirt. Miss Hoffman lowered her voice. That's Liam. He prefers to paint by himself. Emma's breath caught. There was something in his posture, alert, cautious, a little too still for a child. Does he talk much? Emma asked. Sometimes, but only when he feels safe. Emma felt a knot tighten in her throat. May I sit with him for a moment? Miss Hoffman hesitated. Are you sure you're connected to his mother? She sent me, Emma said quietly. I promise, I'm not here to hurt him. After a long pause, Miss Hoffman gave a soft nod. Emma approached slowly, crouching beside Liam's easel. The painting startled her, not because it was childlike, but because it wasn't. It showed a boat at sea in dark water, lightning flashing above. In the boat sat a boy, alone. That's really good, Emma said gently. Liam didn't respond. He dipped his brush in gray paint and added more shadows to the clouds. I used to be a teacher, she added. Art class. My students loved painting storms. But yours feels real. He glanced at her briefly, then back to the canvas. My name is Emma. Silence. I knew your mom a long time ago. Liam's brush slowed. I know this is weird. You probably don't get a lot of visitors. He turned, finally looking at her. His eyes, greenish blue, sharp, too knowing for someone his age, held her in place. Are you one of the ones who lie? He asked quietly. Emma blinked. No, she said. I'm one of the ones trying to tell the truth. Liam looked back at his painting. They say I don't have a dad, he murmured. But I know they're wrong. Emma sat back on her heels. Why do you think that? Because I remember a man, Liam said. From when I was little, he used to sing when he brushed my hair. Emma's throat tightened. Do you remember his face? Liam shrugged. I think I made it up. Mama says I do that. Emma swallowed. Do you still see your mom? Sometimes. She brings me puzzles. But she says I'll come home soon. Emma hesitated. Do you want to go home? Liam was quiet for a long time. Then, I just want people to stop fighting about me. Back outside, Emma stood on the steps of the orphanage, her heart hammering. That boy, that quiet, observant, strangely solemn boy. She didn't need a test result anymore. Liam had Ethan's eyes, and his silence. That night, Emma sat across from Ethan at their kitchen table, the DNA report unopened between them. He hadn't touched his drink. You went to see him, Ethan said. Emma nodded. Ethan looked up slowly. Is he mine? Emma stared at the envelope, then pushed it toward him. You should open it. He took a deep breath and broke the seal. Emma watched his eyes move across the lines. Then he stopped. His hands curled slightly, and he whispered, He's not mine. Emma blinked. What? Ethan looked up, stunned. The DNA. It says I'm not the father. A beat of silence. Then two. Emma leaned forward. Are you sure? He handed her the page. There it was. Plain and official. Paternity probability, 0%. Liam wasn't his son. The room spun. If Ethan wasn't the father, then why the messages? Why the threats? Why bring up a lie? Unless... Daniel, Emma whispered. It's Daniel. Ethan's expression changed instantly. She married him. She had his child. But she wanted to pin it on you. Why? He whispered. Emma didn't hesitate. To hurt you. To control you. Or worse, to ruin your marriage before it started. Ethan buried his face in his hands. Emma reached out, covering his fingers with hers. I don't know what game Julie is playing, she said, but we're not going to let her win. From across the city, in a sleek apartment overlooking the Hudson, Julia Carter stood at her balcony, swirling a glass of wine. Behind her, a child sketch lay on the table. It showed 3 stick figures. A woman, a boy, and a man. Julia stared out at the lights of Manhattan and smiled. Ethan stared at the DNA report long after Emma had gone to bed. The numbers didn't lie. Liam wasn't his son. And yet, every text message, every carefully timed visit, every look from Julia in those cold boardroom corridors, all of it had been real. But not because of truth. Because of power. He had been manipulated, played like a piece on a chessboard. And worst of all, he had almost lost Emma over it. The next morning, Ethan did what he hadn't done in years. He called his brother. Daniel Wallace answered on the second ring. Ethan, that's a surprise. We need to talk, Ethan said. In person. Silence. Then, when? Tonight. Your office. Alone. Daniel Wallace's office was perched high above Midtown Manhattan. Polished marble floors, abstract paintings, an enormous floor-to-ceiling window framing the skyline. It was cold, calculated like its owner. Daniel stood when Ethan entered. He looked as he always did. Crisp, composed, the picture of legacy. He was 5 years older, with steel in his voice and money in his veins. "You look tense," Daniel said, pouring scotch. "Trouble in paradise?" Ethan sat down, skipping the small talk. "I know about Liam." Daniel froze just briefly. "What about him?" "He's not my son." A beat. Ethan leaned forward. "But he is yours, isn't he?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "That's none of your concern." "Julia made it my concern," Ethan snapped. "She lied to me. She tried to wreck my marriage. And she used your son to do it." Daniel looked away, glass in hand. "You think I didn't know?" Ethan's voice dropped. "You knew she lied?" Daniel turned slowly. His eyes were tired, more than tired. "Hollow. I've known for years. I've known everything." Ethan's breath caught. "Why didn't you say anything?" Daniel walked to the window, silent. Then, without turning, he said, "Because I'm dying." The words hit the room like thunder. Ethan stood. "What?" Daniel's voice was calm. "Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Diagnosed 6 months ago. Julia knows. She just doesn't care." The air drained from the room. Ethan sat down again, stunned. "I married her," Daniel said softly, "because I thought she needed saving. She had just given birth to Liam. She was alone. And God help me, I wanted something that was mine." Ethan whispered, "Even if that meant taking what was mine." Daniel laughed bitterly. "You left her, remember? You made sure I did. I gave her the truth. She chose you anyway. Until she didn't." Silence stretched between them. Ethan's mind reeled. All those years. The broken relationship. The rumors. Julia disappearing. And now, Daniel, sick and defeated, holding it all in. "I'll let her tell you Liam was yours," Daniel said, pouring another drink. "Because if you believed it, maybe you'd feel what I feel. Maybe you'd lose something for once." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You let her manipulate me. Hurt Emma." Daniel's voice dropped. "You married Emma because she's the opposite of Julia. Admit it. She's your redemption story." Ethan's fist curled. "Emma is the best thing that ever happened to me." Daniel looked at him now. Really looked. Then hold on to her. For the first time, Ethan saw not his brother, the rival, the polished success, but a man crumbling from the inside. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Daniel said. "I just don't want my son to grow up around this mess." Ethan stood, then stopped the mess. "Control Julia, or I will." Daniel nodded once, slowly. Meanwhile, in a quiet park uptown, Julia Carter sat on a bench with Liam. She watched as he fed breadcrumbs to pigeons, his legs swinging. "Did he say anything?" Liam asked. "Who?" "The man you said is my father." Julia blinked. "He's not." "But you said." "I was wrong," she said quickly. "He's just someone from my past. You don't need to worry about him." Liam's voice was soft. "Do I have a dad?" Julia stared ahead. "You have me." That night, Emma met Ava at a cafe, tucked between brownstones. "I need to know what Julia's after," she said. Ava nodded. "It's not just about Ethan. It never was." She placed a folder on the table. "Julia recently tried to push through a grant proposal, a joint venture between Daniel's firm and a shell company she's tied to in the Cayman Islands. The proposal would give her controlling stake over a set of intellectual properties Novalink developed 5 years ago." Emma frowned. "But she's not even on the board." "No, but if Ethan were compromised, if it looked like he had a secret son or covered up paternity fraud, the board might vote to reduce his influence." Emma sat back, horrified. So all of this, the messages, the lies, the manipulation, it was just leverage. Ava nodded grimly. "And Liam?" "Just her pawn." Emma closed her eyes. "She doesn't deserve him." 2 days later, Ethan held a press conference. He stood before a packed room of reporters, the Novalink logo shining behind him. "There have been rumors circulating regarding my personal life," he began. "I want to be clear. I have no children outside my marriage. A recent paternity claim made against me was false. The child in question is not mine. I have DNA confirmation." Flashes popped. Questions flew. But Ethan stayed composed. I love my wife. I stand by the truth, and I will not be manipulated. He ended the conference without another word. That evening, Julia stood watching the press coverage from her penthouse. Her expression was unreadable. Behind her, Liam entered the room holding a crayon drawing. "It's us," he said. "You, me, and someone else." She glanced at it. "Who's that?" "The man from the picture in your drawer," Liam said softly. Julia didn't answer. She walked over to the window and stared into the night. The rain had been falling for hours. Thin streaks traced the windows of Daniel Wallace's penthouse, where silence hung heavier than the storm outside. Ethan sat in the leather chair across from him, hands clasped. Daniel was slouched on the couch in a way Ethan had never seen. Loosened tie, collar unbuttoned, a small medical device peeking out from beneath his cuff. He looked mortal, not the mogul, not the eldest Wallace son, just a man unraveling. "I wanted to tell you earlier," Daniel finally said, voice hoarse. "But I didn't want to hear myself say it out loud." Ethan stayed quiet. "The diagnosis came 7 months ago," Daniel continued. "Stage 4. Inoperable. They gave me 9 months, maybe a year with treatment. I didn't take the chemo." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Why not?" Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "Because I've been fighting for control my whole life. And this is the first time I had to admit I have none." Ethan looked away. He remembered Daniel's voice when they were kids. Always the loudest, the boldest, the one who decided the rules before anyone could object. Now it was barely a whisper. "I thought marrying Julia would, I don't know, settle something in me. Like if I won her, maybe I wanted life." Ethan stared. "You knew she still loved me." Daniel nodded slowly. "But I had the ring, the house, the baby." He paused. "At least I thought the baby was mine." Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" Daniel didn't look at him. "She never confirmed it. She just let me believe it, and I needed to believe it." Ethan's heart sank. "You don't even know if Liam is yours." Daniel shook his head. "I asked for a test once. She threatened to leave. Said I was cruel for doubting her. I didn't push. I couldn't." Ethan stood. "That's not love, Daniel. That's fear." Daniel smiled faintly. "That's Julia." They sat in silence, the only sound the steady patter of rain against the glass. Ethan spoke after a long moment. "Why did you let her lie to me? About Liam? About everything?" Daniel's voice was soft. "Because I hated you." Ethan blinked. "Your perfect company. Your headlines. Your charm. You walked into every room and made people believe in something. And me? I was the heir. But you became the name. I never tried to take anything from you." Ethan whispered. Daniel looked up. "You didn't have to. You were always more." Ethan swallowed the anger rising in his throat. "You let her use a child to destroy my marriage." "I thought I was already dying," Daniel said. "What did I care?" The word sat there, raw and sharp. Then he added, quieter, "But now, I do care. I don't want Liam growing up thinking this is how men live. How love works. Julia's poison, Ethan. And I drank every drop." Ethan sat back down. "What are you saying?" Daniel's eyes were steady. "Take him." Ethan frowned. "What?" "If the test proves he's mine," Daniel said, "take him. Give him what I never could. Keep him away from her." "That's not my decision," Ethan replied. "It is if I name you guardian." Ethan stared. "Daniel, I can't raise a boy when I'm dying. I can't protect him from her. But you can." Ethan felt the world tilt. Daniel leaned back, suddenly exhausted. "She'll fight. She'll threaten. But if I give you everything, legal, financial, you'll have leverage. Just promise me something." "What?" Daniel looked up. "Don't let him turn out like us." Later that night, Emma waited in the car outside the Wallace building. When Ethan climbed into the passenger seat, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. "Are you okay?" she asked. He didn't speak at first. Then, "He's dying." Emma's heart sank. "I'm sorry." He knew everything. About Julia. About Liam. He just let it happen. "Why?" Ethan turned to her, eyes dark. "Because he wanted to punish me. And because he didn't want to lose her." Emma reached for his hand. "What happens now?" "He asked me to take Liam." Emma was quiet. "And what do you think?" "I don't know," Ethan said. "But I do know he's just a kid. And he deserves better than what we've given him." The next morning, Julia found a letter on her kitchen table. It was from Daniel. "Julia, you once told me I saved you. But I think the truth is We both used each other to feel whole. I wanted to believe I was enough for you, and maybe you wanted to believe I'd forgive everything. But lies don't build homes. I've named Ethan guardian of Liam in the event of my passing. You may contest it, but know this, if you do, every piece of what we've buried will come out. Every forged test, every email, every dollar. Asterisk, I loved you once. But Liam deserves the truth. D. Julia read it 3 times. Then she ripped it into pieces. That afternoon, Liam sat quietly in the orphanage garden, painting a house with a tree and a swing. Emma watched from a distance, heart heavy. Ms. Hoffman approached. He's quiet today. Emma nodded. He's seen too much. The director hesitated. Do you think he'll be placed soon? Emma looked at the boy, then whispered, I think he already has a place. Spring arrived gently in New York City, draping the streets in cherry blossoms and soft light. Life, somehow, moved forward, even when hearts still carried the weight of winter. Emma stood at the edge of Central Park, her fingers curled around a paper coffee cup, watching children run across the grass. The laughter, the joy, it was the kind of sound that made you believe things could be whole again. Behind her, Ethan approached with slow steps. No suit, no phone, just him, stripped of titles and burdens. He asked for you, he said softly. Emma turned. Liam. Ethan nodded. He doesn't know everything, but he knows enough to feel confused. Emma sighed. He's a child trapped in a war of grown-ups. But maybe, Ethan said, we can get him out. Later that day, they returned to Harbor House. Liam was sitting on the garden bench, reading a book about planets. His legs swung back and forth, too small for the seat. When he saw Emma and Ethan approach, he shut the book gently and looked up, eyes unreadable. Hi, he said. Emma knelt beside him. Hi, Liam. Can we sit with you? He nodded. Ethan sat beside him, awkward but sincere. I want to tell you something, he began. Something true. Liam watched him silent. I'm not your father. I thought I was, but I'm not. Liam blinked, but didn't speak. But I care about you, Ethan continued. More than I can explain. And if you'd let me, I'd like to be there for you, however you need, as someone who shows up. Every time, Emma added gently. Only if that's something you'd want. Liam looked at them both. His small hands twisted in his lap. Will there be drawing? He asked quietly. Emma smiled, eyes glistening. As much as you want. Liam thought for a moment. Then, okay. The transition wasn't fast, and it wasn't easy. Legal paperwork, court approvals. Julia's resistance, brief, bitter, and ultimately defeated when Daniel submitted video testimony before checking into hospice care. In it, he spoke of Ethan's integrity, Emma's kindness, and the kind of parents Liam deserved. It was the last time the brothers spoke. Daniel passed quietly 2 weeks later. Julia never showed up to the service. She disappeared soon after, leaving nothing but unanswered questions and a silence too sharp to name. 3 months later, the Wallace penthouse had changed. The sleek, monochrome space had softened. There were paintings on the fridge, half-built Lego cities in the corners, and music, laughter echoing in the halls. Emma found herself brushing Liam's hair at night, the same way she used to help her students after school. His trust came slowly, and then all at once. One night, he climbed into her lap without a word and stayed there until he fell asleep. Ethan watched from the doorway, eyes full. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. One afternoon, Emma and Liam sat on the floor painting. He worked quietly, tongue poking from the side of his mouth in concentration. What are you drawing today? She asked. A house, he said, with a porch and a big tree. She leaned over. And who lives in it? Liam looked at her, then down at the page. He dipped his brush in green paint and added 3 small figures beneath the tree. You, he said, and Ethan, and me. Emma's heart swelled. It wasn't biology. It wasn't blood. It was love, earned, quiet, and chosen. That night, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Ethan took Emma's hand and walked her to the rooftop garden. He handed her a small velvet box. Inside was the same wedding band he had given her before. I made a mess of things, he said, but you stayed, and you fought for me, more than I ever fought for myself. Emma smiled through tears. We fought for him, she whispered. For all of us, Ethan said. She slid the ring back on her finger. And this time, it meant more than ever. Not a beginning, not an ending, but a choice. One that would carry them forward together.